Oh shit.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neil Shaw. For the past 9 years, I've been working with mid to small sized businesses to find and quantify these powerful credits and incentives that help keep you guys competitive in the marketplace and able to invest and grow. My background is in electrical engineering, and it gives me a really unique perspective to better understand your business. And today on this virtual roundtable, we're going to be speaking about a bunch of powerful credits and incentives that you can take advantage of immediately. And my co-host here is Freddie Custodio. I'll have him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Neil. I'm Freddie. It's a pleasure to meet you all here today. And in my over 5 years here with the Lion Group, I worked specifically with companies like you all in the systems integration space to help find some of these credits and incentives. Like Neil, I'm not a tax guy by background. I'm actually a mechanical engineer and have been using this technical background in order to help work with companies like you, review the same drawings in order to find exactly how some of the tax credits apply to your company. And largely, this is going to be activities-based.
Sure.
Specifically in the R&D tax credits itself. We're going to be working with companies in the building automation space, lighting design, low voltage systems, life safety, emergency notification. The list goes on, whether it's audio, video, network, or even telecommunication.
And what's great is our unique background and experience, Freddie, myself, I mean, a Lion Group is over 1,000 employees. 700 of us come from a bunch of different industries, many of which are your industries. And we're able to speak very uniquely because we've designed ourselves, but we're able to uniquely speak to your activities, your processes, bidding, estimation, installation plans, and the list goes on and on. So Freddie, there's a lot of these credits and incentives out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us, taxpayers, business owners, all of us hear about 7,000, 8,000 different incentives, right? Lion Group, we only work in about 4 or 5 of the most powerful ones. And I think the one that comes to mind when I think of design, installation, technician work, programming, the low voltage aspect, I think about the R&D tax credit. But I mean, when we say R&D, I think most people, where do their heads go? What do you think?
Everybody's heads go immediately to pharmaceutical, big time patents. Am I designing a new car? Things like that.
Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, some of these.
But the crazy part about it, and we talk to companies like this every day, Neil, is that it is meant for so many more companies that are doing technical work. And my favorite part about this, we're talking to you all now, but specifically within the integrator space on the R&D side, the Internet of Things has come so far. Buildings, technologies, communication has now continued to progress. And whereas, hey, having a simple building automation system was a luxury a few years ago, that's the standard now. And a part of that, you have to hire more folks and more technical folks to be able to do it. And as you know, Neil, it's really the activities that your employees are conducting that are going to qualify towards something like that.
So just a little bit of a synopsis. When I say R&D, I don't mean traditional lab-based, I'm coming up with a new antibiotic type of R&D. What we're talking about is R&D as in problem solving. And so Congress said, let's make a credit to reward jobs. So in 01 to 03, Congress changed this R&D credit. What they ended up doing is they said, let's get rid of this new to the world piece. Let's get rid of the tax piece. And instead, as long as you're taking on projects new to you as a company, and you're doing all the design, the installation, the technician work, the programming work here, you can qualify for this incentive.
And the beauty of it, because the R&D tax credit is a jobs credit at its heart, it doesn't matter if you're being compensated for the jobs. You can actually still take the credit for activities that are happening that you're being compensated for.
But what if, the question I get all the time, what if you don't have a patent for this work? Like, what if the work that we're doing is not, earth shattering? What if you don't have like US patents that are flowing? You're not working with attorneys to get some of these technologies through? Do you still qualify?
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, the credit is there to reward companies who are doing technical problem solving or design and development activities for new projects or unique projects to their customers.
Sure.
And it's taken the burden down from, hey, new to the world, on a worldview, and much more on a new to the company, new to your customer. Are you providing or designing something that's unique? And if the answer is yes, and you're spending time in CAD or other building management softwares, spending time commissioning, programming specific controllers, whatever it might be, that time is what we would look at. Even things like basic equipment selection to meet specific customer requirements or needs are items that I look at and find every single day.
And I think with the birth, it's actually really interesting, right? We're in this whole pandemic type situation, right? And things have really changed to the point of sanitation, cleanliness, understanding that the space between us is more important than we thought, right?
Yeah.
The interesting part is a lot of the folks we speak to are having to design around this, right? And now you have people integrating different technologies for safety, right?
Yeah.
And you look at this R&D credit, this jobs incentive that rewards you for trying new things, different custom-based work, right? Building-based work that's client-specific, site-specific, what have you. And now, I mean, I would argue to say that it adds a wrinkle and even more qualifying activity. There's more design work occurring, or more installation or problem-solving work.
The beauty behind it has always been this. It's a jobs credit. The government wants to incentivize you all hiring technical employees. And that's everybody across the firm. Whether or not it's your sales, your estimator folks who've worked in the industry for years and have helped sell dozens of different types of camera systems, controllers, whatever it might be.
And it's not easy finding technical employees. I think all of us can agree on this. It's hard to find really great technical skilled labor that's going to stay with us for many, many years to come, right? And help your business grow. And I think what I love about this more than anything is this credit will reward you for the folks you have on staff. And you can use it for whatever you want, but if it helps you hire on a few more folks next season or next year, or for your next project, or maybe you're going to go into a market sector you don't normally serve yet, I mean, that's all Congress can ask for, really, right? Is to put money back into business owners, especially mid to small sized businesses, to keep them rolling and looking at new markets. No matter who it is in Congress, they have American businesses back. They want folks to take advantage of this credit every single year, forever. And the thought behind it is just doubling down on the investment of technical jobs, right? The problem-solving design aspect, looking at new and different systems. And I think that's the piece that's great. And I think there was another update, right, for companies. I mean, I think flow-through companies, I think companies of all different types and entity types can take advantage of this credit, but there used to be a little bit of a tax barrier, right?
Oh, yeah.
And not everybody was able to use these credits. And as you grow your business, what you'll find is, yes, wages is the main driver, okay? The more folks you have doing this technical work, the better your credit. But there are a couple other buckets of costs that may qualify, right? The idea behind this, I think you've heard us say this a lot, is the US-based technical jobs, right? That technical aspect is important. But even another bucket of cost is US-based contractors.
Yeah.
If you hire, or maybe a job gets really large, right? And you need to hire a US-based firm to help you complete said job. Now, contractors that you hire may also be, and they got to be US-based, but can also qualify for this credit, right?
Absolutely.
And then there's one other bucket at the very end too, right?
100%. And looking at that, that's going to be on the supply realm. So within that, if you can imagine, there's a lot of equipment, a lot of material that gets used in the design of these custom systems. And if you all are prefabricating, testing, prototyping any of these systems in place, all of that is something that we could look at. Something as simple as building a custom control panel or being able to prefab that at your facilities is something that I look at every single day.
Sure.
As supporting activity. If you think about it, and the beauty behind this is, I hear every day, well, and Neil, we were engineers ourselves.
Yeah.
You can look,
Don't hold it against us.
think, design, yeah. But you don't know if it's going to work until it's up and running.
No.
And until these custom control panels get put in place, until they're built, until they're commissioned, all that is in question still. And so we've looked at and qualified quite a bit of those types of costs as well that I think many of you, currently incur. I mean, Neil, you know this, the world that we're living in and we're doing right now is virtual.
Yep.
Audio visual companies, people who are doing telecommunications and networking.
Sure.
Within these buildings now have a much larger fee in order to serve people working from home.
Yep.
And that's something that we continue to see as well within the space. But from my end, it really is us rewarding technical innovation every single day that we find on these R&D credits.
Okay, so Freddie, we've been going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're starting to gain a better understanding of this credit. So talk to me. Let's put some brass tacks to this. I am a 50-person, low voltage, fire safety, audiovisual designer. I got, 50 folks on staff. A lot of these folks are technicians. They're technical. I got sales folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking with value? Are we talking a couple $100s, or is it worth our time to look into if I'm 50 employees, or?
Yeah, it's definitely more than a couple $100s, Neil. And I think part of that is because of how technical folks have to be now. We've seen the salaries of these people increase as well. And
yes.
So for a company like you mentioned, and I've worked with a number of these, and it wouldn't be uncommon and certainly not unlikely for me to be able to see or deliver credits in excess of $100,000 to $200,000. $100,000 to $200,000 over the open years that we're able to go back and calculate it for.
So 100 to 200,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But talk to me about this. So open, right? You talked, what does this mean, open years?
Yeah, so the concept of an open year is this. The credit that you'd be applying for doesn't need to be only prospective. So you don't need to apply for it just now and moving forward. You're actually eligible to go back and claim these credits for years where your tax returns can still be amended. So for right now, that could be up to 3 years for a lot of you all. That means that tax that was paid in 2018 could actually be recouped as part of a refund.
And actually, I think the interesting part, so we have some deadlines, right? I mean, it's, March 15th, there's April 15th, there is September 15th, there's October 15th, there's all the other deadlines, right? That I think all business owners are looking at in terms of assessing tax. You only have that 3-year period, right? To go back to claim these credits. So after that 3-year period, what happens?
Yeah, unfortunately, if the 3 years expires, then so does your ability to go back and claim these.
Okay.
That's why it's so important that we talk about this.
Yeah,
and we try to share it as quickly as possible so that you can go back and recoup the expenses that you've already made, that you've already paid. And for us, that's the part that we really want to make sure that we get out to people.
The Energy Policy Act of 2005 put out an incentive and said, look, if you engineer a building or construct a building or involved in the technical specifications of a building that passes a certain engineering standard, you qualify for a deduction. That could be $1.80 times the square footage of the building. Now, as time wore on, actually not a lot of people ended up using this incentive. And now we go into my part of history, 08, 9, 10, where there was a little bit of a recession, right? And architects, engineers, contractors, I mean, the building industry was hit super hard. With this, Congress extended this incentive not only to commercial building owners, but if you work on the technical specifications of a building and it's publicly owned, you can take a deduction on that square footage of the specifications you affect in this public building.
But Neil, right, I know a lot of this, in my mind, and for some of what I've heard from some of our integrators before,
sure,
seems very niche to the construction or the engineering space. I know people have questioned, do integrators qualify for a credit like this?
Sure. I think it's a great question. I think over the past 10, 15 years, this one deduction or incentive has been expanded quite a bit. Integrators absolutely qualify. I mean, we talk about building management systems, right? We talk about understanding HVAC, occupancy sensors, lighting. We talk about integrators that are involved in understanding the shading of a building, right? Shading can directly affect the inside temperature, and the inside temperature can affect the building management system, can affect turning on, energy consumption of the building as a whole. And so there's this whole ripple effect, right? That's associated with it. And I think this 179D deduction is great, and it's not one or the other. I mean, if you qualify for R&D, you can also qualify for the 179D portion of it. And what's great is, as fate would have it, Congress has dug their heels into credits and incentives. They truly do help American businesses, mid to small sized businesses especially. And making it permanent is another step in just a beautiful direction that Congress is taking to make sure that American businesses get everything that's due to them. Freddie, the COVID relief bill that just passed a few months ago, I mean, it's got a lot of great things in it. And there's this employee retention piece that I'm hearing about. Can our system integrators, can our clients, can they use this credit? Is it out there for them, or what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of things swirling around, specifically related to the employee retention credit, because it has recently changed. And right now, it's so powerful for companies who've been impacted by COVID in some way, shape, and or form. Whether or not that's been immediate shutdowns due to government orders, supply chain issues, even if your customers haven't allowed you to go on job sites because of outbreaks or whatever else it might be, there are ways now, specifically written to some of the changes that have recently occurred, for companies to be eligible for this credit.
Interesting.
Part of that, Neil, is that prior to late December, companies who had taken PPP loans, so most of you all out there, weren't eligible for it. The news out around town right now, it kind of sounds like people are thinking that that means you're still not eligible for a credit like this.
Right. I've heard that from a ton of our clients where they say, hey, this employee retention thing is not for me. I already took the PPP or whatever.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, what the government realized, quite frankly, is that limited its usage. They set the barrier and the threshold far too high for companies to be able to claim this. And what they did was open that up. So if you've taken a PPP loan and you have previously thought that you've been ineligible for this credit, it's important that you look at this. And again, it's open to companies who've been impacted by COVID, either from a shutdown perspective, or even if it's just generally affected their bottom line. And there are so many companies out there like this. It's such a powerful credit out there, because if you've done right by your employees, if you've kept them on, if you've continued to pay them even during these trying times, we talked about these credits being a jobs credit. That's exactly what this is. They're going to incentivize you based on the wage that you've paid during this time period by giving you direct money back to offset your payroll taxes.
So if I am 20, 30 employees.
Yeah.
Right. And, I think we have a okay understanding of this R&D piece. We have an understanding of what this once ID deduction can mean. Let's say I'm 20, 30 employees. I mean, what are we talking about here in terms of credit or value?
So quite frankly, Neil, for a company with 20 to 30 employees, over the eligible quarters that we're looking at, an employee retention credit could be a windfall of north of $250,000.
So there may be $250,000 in credits as a byproduct of this incentive.
Yeah. As a byproduct of your company's ability to continue to employ your folks. It's just, I don't want to say it's just that simple, but that's something that we would naturally look at. It's an investment that you're making that the government wants to incentivize you for and pay you back for right now.
Sure. And you see this theme, right? Consistently, jobs, US-based jobs. That is the consistent theme with Alliant Group in general. Our whole support system is to support you guys. The whole idea behind our education and our awareness is to make sure you guys understand these jobs incentives out there like R&D, the once ID, and the employee retention credit.
Yeah.
We talked about R&D. We talked about once ID. We talked about employee retention credits. Can we claim them all? Is there stuff that's precluding us? How does all this work together?
So that's the really interesting part about this. Neil, you are eligible for all of these credits at the same time. Now, again, going back to Congress's intent versus the mechanics of how it's physically calculated or done, there are some intricacies and play between several of the credits, because specifically for something like the research and development credit, as well as the retention credit, those are both wage-based. And so what we're going to have to do and look at is how the relationship between those two play out. But for us, that's really the beauty behind what we do.
Yeah.
You'll be working with me or my teams here, and we're going to be able to assess both of these for you at the same time in order to maximize the benefit that you're going to be receiving for each portion of the credits that we're calculating. So Neil, we've talked a lot about these credits and these incentives that are so powerful. But if a company, one of these integrators, want to get started now, what do they need to do?
Sure. Great question, Freddie. The greatest part about Alliant Group and the way that we work is we just want to gain a better understanding of you and your business. We love making sure all system integrators are taking advantage of all credits and incentives that you guys are entitled to. And really the way that our process works is we just want to learn a little bit about your business. We do a no-cost assessment to figure out what credits and incentives are a best fit for you all.
And so if there are any questions at all that you have about these credits and incentives that Neil and I just spoke about, or how they specifically apply to your company, please do not hesitate to reach out to us.